born in a country that's the finest place on earth, but some folks don't appreciate this land that gave them birth. I hear that up in Washington they're having an awful fuss, 'cause communists and spies are making monkeys out of us. The bureaus and departments have been busy night and day. They're figuring out just how we gave our secrets all away. And Congress has appointed a committee, so they said, to find out who's American and who's a low-down red. They call them up to Washington to speak for Uncle Sam, but when they ask them what they are, they shut up like a clam. I wish they'd take and put me on the witness stand today. I'd yell so loud old Stalin could hear me all the way. I'm no communist, and I'll tell you that right now. I believe a man should own his own house and car and cow. I like this private ownership, and I want to be left alone. Let the government run its business, and let me run my own. Our government is bigger than it ever was today. The more they hire to work for it, the more they have to pay. Our public servants should be proud and honest, you would think, instead of taking bribes and dressing up their wives in mink. The taxes keep on going up, of that there is no doubt, but still they just can't take it in as fast as they dish it out. Our national debt is monster size and growing every day. Our children's children still unborn are going to have to pay. Our dollar used to be the soundest money on this earth, but now $2 won't even buy a good old dollar's worth. Unless we stop inflation and take care of what we've got, the communists may win the fight and never fire a shot. I'm no communist, and I'll tell you that right now. And I believe a man should own his own house and car and cow. I like this private ownership, and I want to be left alone. Let the government run its business, and let me run my own.
About the atomic bomb. When you hear the story, then I know you're gonna wanna run. You gonna run back where you come from. I just heard from a little bird they're gonna drop the atomic bomb. Talk about a flying saucer streaking through the sky. I'm gonna stop to find out if they're stopping or going by. I'm gonna run like a son of a gun. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm really going to run. Oh, run like a son of a gun. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm really going to run. They say stand still like a soldier until the threat is gone. And if they drop the atomic bomb, it's gonna fall down in the pond. But me, I'm gonna be moving, make room I wanna pass. I'm gonna show that old spaceship an awful lot of class. I'm gonna run like a son of a gun. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm really going to run. Oh, run like a son of a gun. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm really going to run.
Wait for me, boy. I'll take it. Yeah. Go, like crazy, boy.
Talk about atomic big submarine and a guy's old vessel too. If they can do 1,000 RPMs, then I can do that too. I'm gonna run like a son of a gun. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm really going to run. Oh, run like a son of a gun. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm really going to run. Right?
Wait for me, man. Wait for me, man. Come here. Every man for himself.
You run like a son of a gun. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm really going to run. Oh, run like a son of a gun. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm really going to run. Run.
Wait for me, man.
Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of the Evigilans Podcast. We had a buffer from last week. We weren't able to go ahead and get things rolling last week. We were both very busy. Keep in mind we are still getting our bearings on everything, timing, so on and so forth. As you may have noticed, we have had kind of a rough schedule, and it's costing us viewership and everything else. We understand the complaints, but those of us who do want to stick around, please do keep sharing. We'll get this in order in due time. So I do apologize for that. Welcome to the 5th episode. There's been so much that has happened in just these 2 weeks. It seems like every day that has passed, there's been another big break from Epstein, Hong Kong, New Mexico, local stuff. Just a ridiculous amount of things to talk about. There's definitely no shortage. Down to Washington, of course, as well, with even the right-wing Republicans. I could talk about a few of them. I've said some concerning, let's say they're throwing up red flags.
Crenshaw.
Yeah, Crenshaw.
Excuse me.
Even the president said some things, but we're not really sure. We're here to discuss a lot of that, but as tradition, let's open up in prayer. Lord, thank you for making this podcast possible. Thank you for keeping our nation free. Give us guidance and strength and understanding. Give us wisdom. Let us walk forward and just light our path. It's so hard to pray sometimes with this because everything is so dark around us, and I'm praying for light. Maybe not, we can't get it everywhere, but I pray for light in all that we do, because we are nearing dark days as prophesied in Revelation. So thank you, Lord, for making this all possible. Keep us safe in all that we do. Thank you. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So we're here in our bunker. It's like, where do we even begin? I think we could probably do it in chronological order, because it seemed like the moment we turned off our broadcast last time, Crenshaw and Trump started talking about red flag laws.
Very next day, very next morning.
Yeah, so that's kind of chronologically speaking. If you don't know what red flag laws are, firstly, they're a mistake. But what I mean by mistake, you look at I like what my buddy War Spirit here said. He said, this gives Antifa teeth. This gives everyone who doesn't like guns teeth. Which, let's be honest, people who don't like guns have no business having teeth at all. That seems to be against their whole genre. But if you get to see this, they're not anti-gun. They're just anti-freedom. They don't mind if these other guys go into people's houses with guns to take guns. There will be death. There will be casualties if this starts to happen. We're looking at a Waco siege every week. So, get my water in me. Thirsty. Red flag laws are a system, and it's very similar to what we have, but a little more radical. I'd say a little more open and far more dangerous. So this red flag, there was a post that's been floating around Facebook that talks about that. It's like you set your dog down to bed at night, you know, you let him back in, you go to bed with your family, and all of a sudden, officers bust in your door. You don't know they're officers. It's a no-knock raid. They come in, you shoot, they're shooting back. You know, they're officers, you know. You didn't know that, but now your whole house is getting lit up with bullets. Your wife is dead. You get shot. You're dying. You get to see your kid getting held down on the floor, you know, with a officer's knees in her back, a daughter, and you don't know what the hell happened. You just went hunting with your friends, you know, like a few weeks ago, and those pictures were on Facebook. And some communist sympathizer, Democrat of sorts, simply had to do was see that hunting photo, see that you're conservative, hates your guts for no other reason than your political opinion, which would have done no harm to him whatsoever. He calls whatever foundation these red flag laws are going through. Is that the ATF?
Yes.
Okay, so he calls up the ATF. He says that you're...
Well, actually, John, let me
Go ahead.
Let me back up just real quick. It depends on, okay, so the one nationally that might go through will go through maybe the ATF. But these states and our very governor has tried to push for a statewide red flag law.
Right.
And so you might have it on multiple levels, okay? And so everybody from Barney Fife all the way up to your federales.
Right.
You don't know where it's going to come from.
Okay. So it makes me wonder what, like, is there a call center for this? Is it going to be like, you know, IT tech, you know, after hours, an Indian is going to pick up the phone?
There's no telling. It's all over the place right now, and I hope to God it never gets put in place. But you got people like, okay, and I'm sorry, this is one that's, and I understand Trump has said it too, and I'm not giving Trump a break on it. I mean, he's stupid for what he said, and I've said that before. When the president says something good, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna say, hey, he did a good job. He did a bad job at this, and I've said that before.
Absolutely.
I think he's misinformed. Trump is, because you know as well as I do, John. He shoots from the hip. Okay.
Exactly.
And I think he has somebody whispering in his ear these things, and he's like, that's what I'll do. Yeah, that's what I'll do. You'll love it. You're gonna love it. And he throws this out. But somebody like Crenshaw, an ex-Navy SEAL that says this, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to...
I have a message.
I'm not a man of
I'll talk about Crenshaw.
But it pisses me off.
I'm about to say, I'll get to Crenshaw here in a minute. But I was just kind of going over what red flag laws are.
Yeah, go ahead.
So red flag laws is basically someone wants to do you in. They want to take your guns just to be mean. They can. And what that's going to do is going to cause... dead deputies, dead men, dead women, dead kids. It's going to be bad. Do not support it. So here's where I'm going to get into Crenshaw. Crenshaw seems to be pretty much, I wouldn't say, because he was very unclear, because he did make a video retort, which was laughable and almost degrading to his support base. Yeah. I would say very rude and very unprofessional. He wanted to call, the conservatives babies. That's what he said. He said, you're babies because you don't want to talk about it. No. Excuse me. No, we don't. We don't. There is not 1 inch. Yeah. We've already given our bump stocks up. We've given our suppressors up. What next? What next do you want us to do? So my point with that, Mr. Crenshaw, if I can talk to Crenshaw directly, if I could, I doubt he's going to hear this. But Mr. Crenshaw, no, there's no room for discussion. There is no room for conversation. Call me a baby all you want. There is no room for discussion on any infringement of the Second Amendment, as it's the first. It protects all amendments before it and after it. Excuse me. Dropped the lid on the floor. That all amendments are protected by the Second Amendment. It cannot, under any circumstance, be infringed. And it's like, no, we're not infringing it. We're just making it harder for criminals, so on and so forth, to cause a mass murder. The red flag laws is not the way to do that. Because that's not pointed at criminals.
Well, and you got to remember due process, okay? So the red flag laws take away due process. So now you're not innocent until proven guilty.
Exactly.
You're guilty until proven innocent.
Which is, again,
and that is unconstitutional. So not only is it against our Second Amendment rights, it's against our First Amendment rights, our Fourth Amendment rights, our Eighth Amendment rights, our 10th Amendment rights.
It's against all freedoms.
So I'm sorry. I'm really worked up about this week. It's
it's like getting shot in the back.
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell? Because that worried me, seeing Trump and Crenshaw say red flag laws, like as if it was nothing.
Yeah.
Because Obama, like, saying it, he got a lot of backdraw. Everyone's like, no. But now Trump said it and Crenshaw said it, everyone just kind of whatever. No, excuse me. This is much bigger. Obama not wanting guns around. Obama wanting red flag laws. Yeah, that's expected. But to get shot in the back by Crenshaw, the guy that pretty much, the hero of the Republican Party, right?
Right.
The ex-Navy SEAL, as you said, Mr. Eye Patch. Yeah, that's the guy, in case you don't know who that is. The guy everyone looked up to, who stood up, right? Now, we should talk about red flag laws? No, Crenshaw. The only thing we should talk about is how bad they are and how much we don't want that.
And so in the military and law enforcement and anything like that, you take an oath to keep and uphold the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And in my opinion, and I know this is a huge thing to say to a Navy SEAL, but I'm sorry, he's a traitor.
Yeah.
If he is going to keep down this road, and Mr. Crenshaw, if you can hear this, think about it. If you keep down this road and you're serious about what you're saying, you're a smart dude. You had to have been a smart dude to get into the SEAL teams. You're a traitor.
Right, and so you're getting out of just being ignorant to being...
Yeah,
crooked.
I can give Trump somewhat kind of a pass because, let's face it,
he's kind of...
I like Trump, but he's not the sharpest tack in the box. Okay?
That's another reason I voted for him. I prefer stupid men over evil men.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I'm not saying necessarily that that's a detraction from Trump.
No.
But I know for a fact that Crenshaw knows what he's doing.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt in my mind. And like I said, maybe it is, as many conservatives like to say, it's the 4D chess, and maybe Crenshaw's playing with it. Because if these heroes of the Republican right, standard, I don't really care for any of them. They're politicians, but the the heroes of the standard mainstream right. Where's I going with that? If they dang it, I lost my train of thought. I was about to say the heroes of these right. If they start pushing these unconstitutional things, it's like.
Well, it makes me wonder, John, who
right.
are they? Who's in their back pocket, or
Exactly.
are they in someone's back pocket? Because otherwise, why would you say this? Have they become part of the deep state? Have they found some kind of dirt on Crenshaw or
Right.
threats against his family or something that he
Right.
honestly is worried about?
Right.
You got to wonder that play too.
Mm-hmm.
Is he forced to say these things? Here's a real tinfoil hat thing. Has he been programmed?
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, you're getting back into where these shooters come from.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Because this never happened until, after Columbine, and it just went downhill from there. And
Yeah.
never before Columbine, not once, was there like a massacre. And whatever massacres they were like sporadic and like spread out across like serial killers.
Yeah.
They weren't like actual just going into places shooting stuff up.
Right.
So, and then all follow the same pattern every time.
Same modus
Look
operandi.
at politicians, maybe you're right, because they seem to be very patternistic creatures.
Very, very much so.
Yeah, it's like they'll go for one thing and then they'll go back, and then it's like it's weird. It gets old and it gets tiresome, which is why I think Trump won.
Yeah.
Even if he is, the leftist, I can give him, he definitely strikes me as ignorant. Kind of strikes me as if average Joe got into presidency
Right.
and was very passionate. And that could just be a show. That could be his gig. Maybe he is part of the deep state as well. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. As far as I understand, growing up, I never liked Trump because he was good friends with Clinton.
Right.
And that was a long time ago. I was like, oh, Trump is like, I heard it on the radio. Trump like gave this much money to Hillary Clinton, and that was like 2008.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago. He gave and so okay, so he gave money to both sides, but he did give more money to her. Yeah. He gave money to the Republicans too. Part of me wants to say he's a businessman.
Right.
And before he got into politics, he really didn't care about politics.
Right.
He was cared about making his next million.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of weird for him to just jump in like that, though.
His claim, and I've heard him be interviewed on this before, and his claim was that he started seeing some of the things that Washington, I say Hollywood because they're kind of linked together, that Washington was doing, and he thought, all you got to do is run the country like a business. I can do that.
Yeah, which I hope he does.
Yeah.
Especially his businesses booming. So, yeah, go ahead. Run it like a business. Just don't tread on me. That's all I can say.
Well, that's just it. I think some of his ignorance is because he doesn't understand fully
I don't think
the hugeness, I know that's a stupid word to put, but of how big the Constitution is and how important it is for us conservatives.
Right.
That understand that that's the only thing that's keeping this country together.
Mm-hmm. Really, it is.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that keeps our country apart, too.
Right.
That's the only thing that separates us from the globalist agenda is our Constitution. Which is, because nobody else has that.
No.
You know, you see other countries copy that, and they've been successful ever since they have. Japan being a good example, after we beat them in World War II, they pretty much copy-pasted our Constitution and went along their way. I don't know about the Second Amendment part, but pretty much everything else.
We were first in it, and I mean, King George himself was thoroughly surprised that Washington gave up his power after his second term.
Right.
He was quoted in saying that was weird. That was stupidity to give up your power, because he didn't understand. And Washington was a good man. In fact, Washington didn't even want to be the president.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't want to be the president when, I'm the head honcho against the British. Yeah. Screw that. But he pulled through it. And that's kind of the whole thing about being an American, is the whole sacrifice for freedom thing. Which, we could say, George Washington had ties to the Masons and all that, so on and so forth. He did. And there's conspiracies with that and everywhere, but these forefathers that are in place made a beautiful country.
They did. And
even if it's, biblical and everything and all this is kind of engineered, the idea of keeping America is a beautiful concept, because America has always been free. In essence, the world looks at us, which brings me to Hong Kong.
Ugh.
The world looks at us, and I saw a meme the other day. It said, "Be the America Hong Kong thinks you are," which hit me in the heart.
Wow. That is deep.
That is deep. And that hit me hard because, you're in the middle of a socialist communist dystopia. I mean, look at our photo right here on screen right now. These buildings everywhere, look at that. It's like a Chinese Soviet Union.
Sure.
It's just an Oriental Soviet Union. These people standing on the screen are waving American flags in the middle of Hong Kong.
Right.
That's why I love this photo so much. They sang the national anthem of the United States.
It's awesome.
In Hong Kong. We must understand that this is a very daring move. China has been known to just erase this sort of thing.
It's called Tiananmen Square.
Yeah, it was called Tiananmen Square. It didn't happen. War Spirit. It didn't happen.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
And all right, Xi Jinping.
I must have remembered that Chinese tank standing in front of that guy in my dreams.
Yeah, it was just I love that they actually started doing memes now where they airbrush the dude standing in front of it out. And it was like, remember the thing that never happened? Yeah, which is exactly what's going on right now.
And Google's on board with that. I know you know that, but I was saying it for our viewers. Because try to look up Tiananmen Square. There's not a whole lot on it.
No, there's not. It's very hard. You'll have the Wikipedia article, that's about it.
Yeah.
And even the Wikipedia article, Wikipedia scares me. Because obviously it's ran by the people, There's been many cases people do Wikipedia for their homework and everything's wrong.
Sure.
Because it's an open forum of information, which is beautiful, but you also get a lot of you get those locked Wikipedias where it's like, this is what happened, cannot edit, so on and so forth. And you're getting into, again, censorship of information,
sure.
The media at its finest. You look up a library book and you have one library book that says this happened and another library book that says this happened. The library is ran by this mindset of people, so one book is banned and the other book is put into place.
Sure.
So that's exactly what's going on with the internet media and so on and so forth. And if you're caught with that other book that the library banned, you're banned from the library.
Yep.
You're not allowed to bring that. You're going to corrupt everyone's mind in their eyes. So, 1984, you mentioned that.
Huh.
And communist China is basically that incarnate.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's face scanning software. You know, phone call, everyone's phone calls are monitored. Like, it's as if, like I said, people don't seem to understand this, that China is just a large North Korea.
Oh, sure.
It's North Korea, just larger.
Have you heard of the point system?
Yes. Yes, I did hear about the point system where good social behaviors and stuff and versus bad social behaviors. That's how much they're recording.
Yeah.
That's a lot. But let's be honest, they have the population to record such things.
Yep. And with that point system, if you do not have a high enough score, if you want to go somewhere, like say even if you're upper to middle class in China, you can't get an airplane ticket unless you have been working on that point system.
Right.
Because they look at that as kind of like a credit score almost.
Right.
To decide if they're going to sell you a ticket or not.
Right, which again, scary. It's like right out of a fictional novel about what's bad, you know. So you look at China now, and you're seeing an uprising, and I'm very worried. I get anxious every time it's on the screen because I'm expecting bullets to just start flying into the crowd.
Yeah.
Like they did back in 1989.
Yep.
Because that is exactly the Chinese government. It is a very evil, very crooked, very disgusting system. And it has oppressed those people so viciously and so mercilessly ever since Mao took order.
Sure.
Which is, now? It was before World War II almost, I'd say.
And I have to hand it to these people. They're either crazy brave or crazy stupid because, you know, John, me personally, I don't mind protesting like that, but I'm going to be strapped. Mm-hmm. These guys don't have any guns. They don't have that. No. I'd have my AR, body armor, and all kinds of good stuff ready to go.
Yeah. And that's, that would be proper, but that's because we can do that.
Correct. That's because we have that freedom.
That's what they're fighting for. That's why the American flag is being waved. I love that. That makes me proud as an American to see people and these aren't the first. They did this in Venezuela.
But John, Obama told me that all the other countries hate us.
No.
Oh, you mean that's not true?
Yeah, the governments do.
Yeah, there you go.
That's to say the governments of other nations hate us.
Yeah.
And that's probably the truest form of they hate us for our freedoms, like big time. And because it's a big inspiration, you go to Google or whatever China has, which they do have like Google China, which is kind of what we got now. But luckily we have other search engines still. So again, we're America, we're not China. And a lot of people, I've seen internet boards jump in to defend the Chinese government. Communists here in the United States jumping in to defend the communist government. I'm like, so you guys support Tiananmen Square? Those 10,000, this is from MI6 recent release document, 10,000 lost souls. Yeah. Because they didn't even want to change that it was communist. Yeah. In 1989, they didn't even want to change. They didn't want to change China. They didn't want to challenge the government. They just wanted some democracy. Yeah. And personally, I think democracy is flawed, but it's not much to ask for in such a system. It's like, okay, yeah, you can still be our overlords, but at least give us an option to vote. That was literally all those students wanted in 1989, and they were slaughtered. Sure. Killed. And let's get more...
Made examples of.
So let's look at this. Tiananmen Square, because of such a high body count in such a short amount of time, the Chinese government rode tanks over the corpses until they turned into a red goop. Yep. And then washed them down drains with fire hoses. Yep. And if you look at that is the image of communism. That I wish there was a press report. There probably is, but we don't have those photos in public domain. That probably belongs to CIA or MI6. Sure. But if someone's out there that has these photos of the Chinese goop of people, of innocent students, that, I want to shove that in every communist's face and say, this is what you support, and you're gonna preach to me about morality and freedom.
Yeah.
It's like this. It's intolerable and it's insufferable. I cannot stand the idea. So every time a communist gets on to me saying I'm in the wrong, and their only thing right now is like, you're separating children from their parents and ICE and everything. Well, one, I'm not. Two, they're very temporary. What do you think happens here that has always happened here when a parent breaks a law? They are taken away. The kids are put into like child haven.
Sure.
It's literally what's going on at ICE.
Yep.
The ICE facilities. The children are put in their own facilities. The parents are put in their own facilities until something's figured out. They can be put back together, or if, like, say it was a trafficker that brought the child in, then the trafficker's going to go away and the child's going to be better for it.
Sure.
So, again, their morality, these people have no morality. And I don't know if it's just because they're godless, they're godless Reds, or if it's a cognitive, it's exactly what Revelation said, woe to you will see good is wrong and wrong is good. Mm-hmm. And it's infuriatingly, it pisses me off when I have a communist say, well, at least I'm not a Nazi. Excuse me, Nazis, yeah, evil sons of guns, but, the only reason that communism is relatively worse than Nazism, they're equal in my eyes, is because Nazism was only around for about 15 years.
Yeah.
And then it was squashed, whereas communism has been around for over 100.
So communists are just jealous, John, because the Nazis were more efficient at their evil.
I suppose so, But if they were allowed to keep going, they would have had a kill count that would have been awful.
Oh yeah.
But now communism, especially in China alone, it's over.
Oh, Mao was
it's 50 million.
Them. Yeah.
So 6 million versus 50 million, and that's the march of progress that they claim. So the big problem with communist ideology, China ideology, their government, is that the ends always justify the means. Well, when are the ends going to come? Because they're still not here. How long has China been communist?
Oh, gosh.
Again, a long time. Where are the ends? No, it will never justify 10,000 students being turned into goop and washed down fire drains, sewer drains.
Sure.
That's inhuman. It's disgusting. Makes you sick, and if you're not a desensitized person, that's sickening. And you're like, wow, I would never support this system. I don't want socialism in my country, because this is the image of socialism.
Right.
Is these protesters on my screen again, if they get gunned down, you heard it here. If they got gunned down, they got gunned down fighting for something that would probably have barely changed China in the first place.
Right.
That would have barely challenged the government. But the government doesn't take it. Over in China, it is a tyrannical communist government, the same as Venezuela, which you have videos of Venezuela just recently running over pedestrians with tanks.
Yep.
Just because, that's what communist governments do. Communism has never been tried before is another argument I hear. I know I'm going ham on communism right now because, well, it's what's going on.
It's here with us.
It's here with us, and it's one of the big threats. I don't think it's the main threat. I think it is a bunch of puppets. I do think, but right now, if you could get all the youth out of the communist ideology, you would see the globalist agenda and everything start to crumble, really.
Sure.
Because what's really pushing it right now is the communist ideology to believe that communism is the moral good compared to capitalism. But to debunk that right away, a lot of people will say, Jesus was a socialist, which cracks me up. Because Jesus never held anyone at gunpoint and said give to people.
No. Even in the early church when it talked about acts and everybody giving to everybody's needs and stuff.
Right.
You remember how it talked about the husband and the wife,
mm-hmm.
that they sold the land and they gave part of the money, but they lied about it.
Right.
And they said that they gave all the money, and it ticked the Holy Spirit off, and they were smoted and they died.
Yeah, one of the few.
They wouldn't have had to do that, John. They could have went up and said, just be honest, and said, hey, we sold this land, and we're going to give 10%, 20%, whatever they wanted to, but we're going to keep the rest of it. It'd have been totally okay. Because it said that everybody gave because they wanted to.
Right.
And that's the difference. I mean, the early church, before we had all these different socialist stuff here in our nation, you know, your welfare stamps, all your different stuff, the church is what took care of people when they were down on their luck. When a man lost his job, you didn't go to the government.
No.
Your neighbor helped you out.
Exactly.
Your pastor, your
there's the snake in
church
the grass.
deacons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's your snake in the grass. That's why the church and capitalism is so demonized.
Sure.
It's exactly that, is because socialism, relying on the government.
Right.
It's like, no, don't go to God. No, don't go to God for your problems. Right. Come to Daddy Government. Come to Daddy Government. I'll take care of you. Yep. And Daddy Government is a very controlling, conniving little bastard, and he is going to molest you. He is going to control you. He's going to pretty much ruin you in any way he can, as long as he can control you.
Yep. He's going to give you just enough so that you will be dependent and vote for him.
A very abusive
But he's
husband.
not going to give you any more.
Yeah. A very controlling, paranoid husband.
Correct.
It's like, if I give you too much money, you're going to go run away. Which, honestly, yes.
Yeah.
We would, because you are awful.
I mean, I've even talked to people before. I've known some guys that back when stuff got really rough in 2016 that went on food stamps, and a buddy of mine, he said, you know what? And he ended up finding another job and stuff too, but he said, because he has 5 kids, and he said, you know, I could see how this is a trap. Because you start getting this money and coming into you, and it's enough, you know, to feed your kids and stuff, and each kid gets a child tax credit, and you get your food and everything, and you get enough to get by. But say, John, that you want to be a responsible husband and you love your family, and you try to go get down and at least get a job at McDonald's. Well, they slap you on the wrist, go, no. If you make this much, we're going to take away this food credit.
Right.
And then you look at the money you got coming in from the McDonald's, and it's not enough.
Right. You see the problem.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Yeah.
Once you get into it, it's very hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
Someone once said, in this case, you know, you can vote your way or you can walk your way into socialism. You're going to have to shoot your way out of it.
Yep.
Almost every time.
Yep.
Now, in this free market, if you apply yourself, because I do believe, like, you know, if you're in that situation, listen, if you're in that trap right now, 1, I'll say a prayer for you, and 2,
amen.
You know, I want to break those chains that bind you through the power of Christ. That's really the main way. That's the center of everything I talk about here is Christ. Because it's morally right. Be it capitalist, communist, whatever, it's what's morally right. It's what is right in not just God's eyes, well, actually just in God's eyes, because there is no other right. It's the only, like, moral compass. That's why these people seem so lost, I think.
Well, you mentioned that earlier, John, and I believe with the former of your 2 choices, that these people are, they know that there's a God, but they don't want to admit that there's a God, because then they would have to admit that there's morality. Because where does morality come from? It comes from God.
It does.
2 elk or 2 deer or a mountain lion and a deer, they have no morality.
No.
They have instinct.
They do.
Okay? The only thing on this earth that has morality is a human being.
Yeah, is mankind.
Correct. That God created.
Exactly.
In His image.
And the basis of morality, I actually wanted to do this. Like, I just want to make 2 sentences. What is the basis of morality? And I think I've found it. It's the protection of human life. And that's it. That's it. The protection of human life is the basis of all morality. That's the basis of the 10 Commandments. The protection of relationship is what the 10 Commandments are. Because if you lie, it leads to all the other ones. Yeah. Lying is the smallest one. I always start there. Because lying in the 10 Commandments leads to all the other sins.
Correct.
You know, adultery, everything. You have murder. It all is connected.
Right. Well, what did Jesus say? That the 2 most important are love God. Yep.
Love
all
thy
your
neighbor.
Heart, soul, and all mind.
Yep.
And love your neighbor as you love yourself.
And all the others will fall in between.
Yep.
And so that's basically right there. He already nailed it. He's like, you know, so the morality is more or less the 10 Commandments. And atheists would probably agree with that. You know, cheating is wrong, lying is wrong, murdering is wrong. They would agree with that.
Right.
But, you know, wrong to who?
Right.
With them. You know, and it's like, well, if it's just wrong to humans, then we're all just monkeys anyway. So what's the point? And I think that's like a big reason that a lot of these kids, kids are doing these shootings. And like 17-year-olds, you know. That's still a kid. You're a baby, man. You know, I was a baby when I was 18.
I was going to say, even at 18, you know, they become... And I brought this up online on social media a week or so ago. You know, if we're making all these arguments, some of these kids are, you know... I said, you know, let's open the subject. Let's open the issue. You know, supposedly they're too young to buy these rifles. They're, you know, whatever, they're messed up in the head or whatever. Because I heard somebody say, well, they're too immature to be able to buy a rifle at 18. Okay, then why are they old enough to go
join the
military and die for our country? Yeah. Why are they old enough to vote?
Yeah.
I mean, if we are going to do that, maybe that's a discussion we need. Do we need to make that 21? Our kids nowadays, our youth, so immature that they can't make those wise decisions.
You know, that's an interesting concept here. I think I'd like to get into this now. So the freedom thing, you know, the liberty of Americans in general. My mother shared a photo of a kid riding a tricycle with a lever action rifle.
Yeah.
You know, and I loved that, and I looked at that, and it's like nobody would call the cops.
Not back then.
Not back then. You know, nowadays, oh my God! So I think a big reason of, the soyification of man, which we talked about last time, the soyification of man comes from is a lack of freedom.
Sure.
Because one thing that even helped me grow up, like when I got kicked out, there you go, a little bit of personal information. I got removed from my house, respectfully, and I instantly learned, you know, it's like I saw myself changing. It's like, okay, now it's time to man up.
Right.
Because parental, whatever. So there's always like in the old movies I used to watch as a kid, there was always this one kid whose mom would always be like, no playing volleyball because your limbs are going to fatigue. You know, no playing soccer because you might break something. You know, those moms,
the classic,
that's
like,
the government.
Boy.
That's the government right now. Yeah. That's like, don't do that or you might get hurt.
The nanny state.
The nanny state. Perfect. Seatbelts and everything. Mm-hmm. And so the soyification of man is going to cost us more freedoms because these people are scared to stand up for what would separate us from all the other world. You know.
Well, look at generations going down. Mm-hmm. And like, okay, going back to, and I'm sorry, I keep bringing him up, but I'm a huge fan of George Washington, if you haven't already found that out. When he was 16, he already owned his own company, and he had a surveying company, and he surveyed the eastern part of the United States to bring back to the government more information of what everything looked like and the lay of the land and stuff in Indian country at 16 years old. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was his own man.
Yeah.
I look back when I was 16, even when I was 16, okay, yeah, I did have a part-time job and stuff, but I wasn't responsible enough to own my own company.
No. Teddy Roosevelt is a good example.
Oh, yeah.
That dude, I'm going to be honest, I read that dude, I'm like, I might as well be a homosexual compared to him. Or like, dude, that guy, he makes me feel like a woman every time I read him. You know,
Teddy was a cool guy.
The dude had a badger as a White House pet. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
They named him like Mr. Nibbles. I'm serious. And I'm sitting back, I'm like, this is a man.
Yeah.
This is what every man should at least aspire to.
Rough Riders?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Chuck Norris, Teddy Roosevelt, the dudes who, like...
Did you know he wanted to invade South America and make it part of the United States?
God bless him, you know? Yeah, look at that. And it's like Teddy Roosevelt. That's a perfect example. He wanted to build a canal through Mexico and stuff, you know? And it's just, you see it's like, dude, we're men. We're going to do what we want, you know? And I see that, and it's like, I miss that in our politics because... I mean, this, like I said, I want to go more into Teddy Roosevelt too. Is like he was shot in the chest 2 minutes before giving a speech.
God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, shot in the chest, and he mocked the guy who shot him on stage. He got shot. Takes more than that to kill a bull moose, he says, and he continues with the speech. Anyways, so Hong Kong, let's go back to Hong Kong here. There's huge protests going on for the sake of freedom. As we understand, Hong Kong is not mainland China. It was a British colony, and now it's a Chinese colony of its own right. The people who have studied or have even been able to study what the colony was like would see a very better system. England now, they wouldn't be able to buy spoons at 16 years old. Like Tag doing that.
I saw that just this morning. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. And it was early, and I was trying to wake up, and I'm like,
what
is he sending me now? And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, no, I must be asleep. Spoons?
You can't. Yeah. So new thing in parts of the UK is you cannot buy spoons unless you're 16 years of age.
What is their thought process behind it? Because you can sharpen them, make a prison shiv? Or?
I don't know. I mean, personally, I start to wonder if England it has just turned into a giant Monty Python skit.
I think so.
It's quite literally what is there? Grandmas running around.
Yeah. Okay, buy me some spoons, governor.
Is there vicious left turn signs again?
Yeah.
What the hell, man?
Bring me a shrubbery.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It is exactly it's one big Monty Python skit. It's a huge comedy. Because America and everyone else is laughing at them, and they're on Facebook. They're out here, and they're always commenting on how we should get rid of our guns and how lovely life is in UK. And I'm like, well, there's the nanny state of the century saying you can't buy spoons. Because, I don't know, what? I mean, you're getting to the point. I did read an article. Someone had a screwdriver in his garage. He's now he's a felon. Or, the equivalent of whatever they have in England of, a...
For a screwdriver?
For a screwdriver.
What are you
An unlicensed screwdriver.
Oh, so you have to license your screwdrivers in the UK?
No, pretty much if, if you get raided like that, they're going to look for anything.
Wow.
I mean, you have no freedom. It's the 1980 forest.
It's probably more so they got so much freedom on their side, not the people's side. Right. They have so much leeway to be able, if they want to put you in prison for something, they can.
Absolutely. They don't have a constitution.
For example, the spoon thing, they just added another law because that way they can be like, well, look, we can put this guy in jail because he had unlicensed spoons.
Which is beyond me. I mean, and it also makes me wonder, is there an unrecorded happening with spoons in this area?
Yeah.
That, the insane refugees, it's now since you've banned knives, they're still killing people with spoons. Is that not a testament to why banning guns won't work?
I'm taking all my spoons, John, and I'm going to melt them down, and I'm going to make an AR-15 lower with it.
Yeah, and it's going to have a black stock.
That's right.
It's going to have a black stock on it. Don't forget the black stock.
That's right.
Because if it's a wooden one, well, they still want to take it away, but let's be honest, they're so effing dumb.
They're a little bit less scary.
It's dude, again with this, it's a huge comedy, which I don't want to bring it up because I'm not part of the alt-right. The alt-right is such it's a rainbow of oddity.
Right.
And strangeness, and it's part of it is neo-fascism, and a part of it is just goofballs and everything. But someone brought up a good point. It's is this all just a comedy?
Yeah.
It's bouncing around Friends, the show Friends, the politics. It's you could just put that music over anything going on right now and it fits. And it cracks me up sometimes because it's I sent you a picture. There is someone on the left, a transgender man. He's a man, no matter what he calls himself, fighting the alt-right by smelling his own farts.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's just and you hear so much stuff like that. It's it doesn't even deserve attention. It really doesn't, but it's what is this?
Well, and with the transgender stuff, we're being permeated with it. On Netflix last night, I'm a huge sci-fi fan, okay?
Yeah.
And there's this new Netflix series called Next Life, I think is what it's called. And I was like, sweet, a new sci-fi series, and it's all about this alien antenna or something that's crash landed on Earth, and it started sending this message up into space, and they don't know what it is, and the scientists are trying to figure it out. By this time, we've already developed our own FTL drive, And so we decide, well, let's go where the message is being sent and see if we can make contact with these guys. So they get their crew together, and I'm like 30 minutes into the film so far, and so far it's been pretty good. And right out of the bat, one of the crew members is not just a queer. So they can't just push that on us now. And it's kind of sad. I've kind of gotten numb to that, which is not good. But you kind of
desensitization tactic.
You kind of accept it now.
It's
he's a
dang
queer.
it, this show is really good. I don't want to quit watching. Yeah. So they're going to slip that in.
But now that he can't just be a queer, he's a transgender.
Oh, okay.
I drew the line at it. I'm like, this is bull crap.
Yeah,
I turned it off.
Yeah, it's too much. They're doing that in kid shows, man.
Yeah.
And a big one, like I remember all the. Let's be honest. There's some that are just so propagandistical. Your kids may have watched it. Viewers, I would strongly advise against it. It's very anti-God. I'm not saying like explode on your kids or anything. It's not like they know. I'm just saying, watch what your kids watch. Like, and that's just a standard rule. I hear moms like, "Oh my God, YouTube let my kid watch." I'm like, dude, no, YouTube didn't. You did. Yeah. And so. The big thing right now, there was this one that was back in the day, it was called Steven Universe or something like that. It's a cute little cartoon. On surface level, it doesn't look wrong, but there's a lot of little subtle pro-queer stuff in there all the time. Every episode, there's like little things. The main characters they make it very clear they don't have a gender and stuff like that, which it's like, well, what's the harm in that? It would have been seen as wacky, and maybe that's where it belongs in a cartoon. Yeah, okay, fair. But there's a lot of little subtle hints in that. It's just I see so much of our kids, like middle schoolers. Like I talk to because I have a social life now, being homeschooled and everything. It's weird learning how the world works, even just locally. It's like, oh yeah, when I was in 4th grade, it was one of my close friends talking to me. She was close friends. She's like, oh yeah, in 4th grade, I was a lesbian. And I was like, what? I'm like, dude, I didn't know what gay was in 4th grade.
No, me neither.
So where did this come from? Where is it? And I think, honestly, a lot of it does come from just lack of, if they're, because usually what's funny to me, these people, is like their parents are Christian. And it's like, oh yeah, I was a lesbian in the 4th grade. I'm like, but your parents are Christian? And it's like either one, it's like, yeah, they're just doing a little rebel thing, or two, my parents just, they weren't paying attention.
Right.
Because if you don't raise your kids, the state's going to. If you don't raise your kid, the media is going to. Hollywood, Epstein crowd, they're going to raise your kid. Which brings me to Epstein. Stanley, New Mexico. Let's get the local stuff out of the way. 3 hours south towards Santa Fe is a small little compound, a little ranch owned by Epstein. But before we get into that, let me go ahead and prepare a little thing here. But let me go ahead and go more into that. Stanley, New Mexico is about 3 hours from the Four Corners, which is where this is based out of. There's a lot of reports of very nefarious activity. Everywhere Epstein went, there was nefarious activity. And as I was informed by War Spirit, just today, Bill Richardson, our former governor of New Mexico, would often attend these parties.
Yep.
There were eyewitness accounts of young girls. And another thing I wanted to bring up was, do you remember this big outburst recently on the reservation about white vans?
I remember hearing something about it, and I hadn't connected these two until you mentioned it a few days ago, and it got me really like, holy cow, thinking.
Yeah, because what happened? It seems like now that Epstein got caught, it all stopped.
Yep.
All the talk of it, because I honestly think it stopped happening.
Yep.
See, when these kidnappers don't have the boss, they're going to take a break until a new one is in place.
Well, and that's proof right there. And I mean, other than him using that island for nefarious purposes with young girls and stuff for blackmail material, maybe he made a lot of his money by human trafficking.
Maybe.
Maybe he's selling these young girls.
Maybe. And that, well, absolutely. Not maybe. Yes. I'm sorry, I was typing something in. I didn't think about it. Yes. No, this guy is, that's probably his main moneymaker.
Yeah.
Despite whatever else.
I mean, he's a billionaire, and there's been multiple people on the radio, even like Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, all these different guys. They're saying, the big names that talk radio.
Yeah.
They don't know how he made his money. There is no really trail of how he made his billions. And they were thinking, it's more along the lines of blackmailing these politicians that he flew out to that island, to that orgy island or whatever it's called. With that airplane that had the bed in it that they had group sex in. Clinton was logged 27 times flying on this plane.
Only went on it 3 times.
That's right. I didn't know that those girls were underage.
You son of a bitch. I don't like Clinton.
Dear sugar, you want to make $20 the hard way.
Dude, Bill Clinton, man, I get a kick out of him too. He looks like a walking dead man.
Oh, he does. So does she, though, at this age. I mean...
Well, the wicked never rest, and it shows on
you
their
can
face.
see the evil in her. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's evil for the stuff that he's done. But he's just one of those, disgusting, okay, in the 90s, do you remember a game called Leisure Suit Larry?
Yeah, I remember Leisure Suit Larry.
Bill Clinton is Leisure Suit Larry.
That's accurate. I like that. No, I'll have to try and explain what that is. No, I'm not going to get into Leisure Suit Larry.
Look up Leisure Suit Larry.
Look it up on your own. You'll probably get a kick out of it just by looking at the cover art.
It was made by Sierra, the guys that made Space Quest and stuff. Yeah. It's a hilarious game, but it's not appropriate for kids.
Yeah, don't play it in front of your kids. I don't know, these days...
Well, yeah.
Probably considered Christian.
Probably tame.
Yeah.
At least it was straight.
That's something. Oh my gosh. Now they're going to say we think that gayness is morally wrong. Let's be clear. I don't agree with homosexuality. However, I do think it's the least pressing of issues right now. The most pressing of issues right now is, of course, the deep state Hollywood child sex trafficking ring, which is being revealed every day. Epstein supposedly committing suicide. We'll get into that. I need to take a bathroom break.
But have we lost our way? The stars are for remembering the glory and the victory, where proudly we can say, oh, this is freedom. This is freedom. Collide along the straight and narrow, when peace is found in sacrifice by patriots and heroes, where grace abounds and evil dies. Truth resounds above the lies. It's only found one way, and here we are today. This is freedom. If this is a reality, then where are the solutions? A place where we can stand and sing the worship of our risen King without regret or shame. The hope for life eternally, we hold alive for all to see without a guilt or blame. It's what we claim. Oh, this is freedom. This is freedom. This is freedom. This is freedom. Even though the fight is long, the enemy may wound us. The stripes are for the rays of hope that never cease to lead us, guide us home. This is freedom.
Hello, we're back. Had some water, had some refreshments. We're ready to go again. That was This Is Freedom by Justin Unger. An old song I was reminded about. I love that old little ditty. And I mean old isn't, like 5 years old. Anyways, we were talking about Epstein and his alleged suicide, which is already... isn't that something? Isn't that... just crazy? Everyone knew this was coming. Everyone was making memes before it happened. Yep. This guy is gonna kill himself.
I think we called it on this podcast.
We did. I'm not sure, but I know that it was probably alluded to that the Clintons want this loose end tied up.
Yeah.
And so does the rest of Hollywood and anyone else. His black book shows a lot of names. Ridiculous amount of names that are very familiar. So, someone released like a highlight of like famous people that me and you would be familiar with.
Sure.
And you don't see a single conservative really on that list, which is again, geez, I wonder who's on the morally right side of things.
Quite a few movie stars in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have Hollywood, the state. It's scary, and it's like if you have lost a child, it's like. It's such an insult, so depressing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh wow, this is our own government that did this to us. This is our own, the people we supposedly look up to. I don't know about you. Actually, I know about you, War Spirit, that you never just like me, have never, no matter what side they're on, have looked at a celebrity and said, yeah, that's my hero.
Yeah.
Because they're celebrities. Like football stars, whatever. And nobody cares. So we have Epstein supposedly dead because of in a suicide watch cell on suicide watch, kills himself.
Mm-hmm.
Impressive. I was about to say, yeah, we did. I talked about the 3 bullets in the back of the head, and it's a suicide.
Yeah,
it's exactly what I mentioned from the Clintons, and so no, this is exactly what happened. Somebody was hired. I don't think Bill and Hillary Clinton walked right up in there themselves, but I definitely think he was. No, I know he was assassinated.
Have you heard the latest on the excuse the guards have made?
Yeah. It was something like we were out like pissing or something?
No, well, okay, so they were saying, we've been working all this overtime, and we were tired, and sometimes we had to work like 80 hours a week, because at this prison, I guess they're understaffed. And
of course.
The 2 guards that were supposed to be watching Epstein, they were supposed to be taking turns.
Yeah, shifts.
Watching Epstein, decided to take a 3-hour nap at the same time, because they said we were tired.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice.
Convenient. Nice.
Yeah. And
okay. none of the other inmates have killed themselves.
No. Just Epstein.
Just the high VIP target of the century.
Yeah.
The one that the last one you would care, the last one you would want to kill himself out of all the other ones there, which we don't know their names. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, they're probably sitting there like, really, man?
Well, look, it's New York.
Yeah.
The majority of the New York left probably had dealings with him if they were high up enough, to some extent or another.
So
it behooved them to get rid of this guy.
So yeah, that's another thing. It's like the Clintons are involved, but maybe they weren't directly involved with the assassination. Maybe it was just another guy.
Yeah.
It was like loose end, boom. Get him done. It's like mafia crap, which is exactly what it is.
Look at Como.
Yeah.
Is maybe Como on that list?
Yeah.
Ooh, and that later on I got
Weinstein was on the list.
You heard about Como's brother, right?
Can't say I have. If you want to inform us about
Chris
that.
Como with CNN. You heard what happened to him last week?
No. I can't believe I missed it. What else is there to talk about this week?
Just a real quick side note, John, and I'm sorry. I'll say this real quick. So, Chris Como with CNN was at this dinner, and 2 guys come up, secretly filming him, wanting to get a rise out of him on purpose, and they called him Fredo. Now, have you watched The Godfather?
Yeah.
Okay, so Fredo was the younger son that was kind of a screw-up, that was like not as important as the older son.
Yeah.
The older son is Como the governor.
Right.
Chris Como is just with CNN. So it pisses him off, and he starts cussing this guy out and saying that Fredo was like the N-word for Italians and all this different stuff, which was hilarious. As if it truly was the N-word, why did you say Fredo and then say the N-word? Because clearly you knew the N-word was worse.
Right.
And he's like, I'll throw you down the effing stairs and all this different stuff. And this guy was just trying to get Chris Como to swing at him, but he wouldn't. But it was hilarious. So now, and this is a rule for you children, if you don't like a name that somebody gives you, don't react to that name. Because from now on, Chris Como is Fredo.
Yeah. Doesn't even have the decency to be Al.
So, sorry, but I had to say that.
Alfredo. But, yeah, no, I was about to say, it kind of could go for some chicken Alfredo right now.
that sounds mighty good.
Going into this.
Going back to Epstein.
And, man. I was talking about it's in our backyards.
It is.
This pedophile, deep state pedophilia crap is in our own backyards. How many deep state hooligans, like, here's a scary thought, it'll wake us up. How many of these pedophiles, these expert pedophiles, I'm going to call them, these hired government Hollywood pedophiles have looked at our kids?
Yeah.
How many of them have pondered at our children?
How many
have our kids been completely immune, or did we, did they run through someone's system at some point?
Well, obviously, since Bill Richardson is involved in some of this and has been implicated to being on that island as well, by 2 separate girls saying it. It's in our backyards. It's happened
right here, dude.
It makes you wonder how many people right out of the Farmington area have been abducted for these sickos to play with.
It's scary. It's like, this isn't just in New York in the big areas anymore. No, it's here.
Yeah.
It's here in the rural areas.
Yeah.
Warning, Montana, open up, open your eyes. Here we are. It's like, it's here. New Mexico is the forgotten state, and it's here.
Yeah.
New Mexico it's way out in the middle of nowhere. Where we are in the top left corner, in the 4 corners, is not a place of much repute.
Right.
It's a very small, very secluded, it's different. And yet here we are, the deep state, from the deepest bowels of the satanic ritual government that we got, the Epstein, the deep state, everything like that is right here in our backyards.
It makes sense though, John. Look how often we're on the news. So if we are forgotten, I mean, look at all the time how people say, with homeless people and stuff, if they're murdered and stuff, well, a lot of times that doesn't get investigated that deep.
So
because they don't have any family anyways, so nobody cares.
The reservation is set up to make a perfect ground.
Yep.
Like out there, like I was talking about, it's a perfect ground because the police don't have to investigate over there. They just have to write a report.
And look how corrupt even the leadership of the reservation is, and they are left-leaning. So maybe all Epstein had to do was go talk to the tribal council, give them a couple mil, and they turn their heads.
Right. Which, we need to make that clear. Any police, he could have done that too.
Oh, yeah.
And when you start talking about that, I just want to make it clear to anybody. Oh my God, racist! No, it's the perfect ground for it because it's a forgotten piece of land. The United States government has abandoned it.
Well, I'm not going by race. It's going by. It's a socialist state out there.
It's perfect setup for these leftist hooligans to take advantage of these people.
Sure.
And, if that means going into Farmington, kidnapping someone from here, or just even staying out there, kidnapping someone from the border of Kirtland, the border of Gallup.
Yeah.
And perfect. You're home free. You're scot-free. You just go from Gallup straight to Albuquerque, straight to Stanley, New Mexico. In the middle of nowhere.
Yep. It's in the middle of nowhere. There's a helo pad. Mm-hmm. There's 2 ways to get in by road. One is a 2-track trail that I followed up that's a long ways around. Looked like maybe it was a service road at one time. Mm-hmm. And then there's a ranch that's down below it. And it looks like it's a working ranch. I don't know who runs that part of it. I'm still doing research on that.
Yeah.
And there is one small paved road up to it from there, but it doesn't look like it gets used very often. My thoughts, and the Google Earth image actually still shows, how when a helicopter lands, it kind of makes like little circles in the ground?
Yeah.
There were circles in the ground on that helipad. So whenever that picture was taken, Epstein was there recently.
Yeah. Or someone.
Yeah. With a helo.
Yeah, someone with a helo. And probably would have been Epstein.
Yeah.
Or Epstein and a friend.
Yeah.
Bill Richardson. And we're looking at Google Images. They have photos. Like if you look up Bloomfield, it's like 15-year-old photos. Like way back. And so that's a big thing here. That's local. That's right here. Holy crap! Don't get your eyes off your kids for 1 second because these sickos do want them.
Yep.
They will, and I don't mean to be like fear-mongering douche when I say this. I just mean to be very careful because it's here now. We're not. Again, we're not immune.
No.
Again, with the Aztec shooting, we're not immune. And again, with the shooting down in Allen 8, apparently a few days ago, where a guy just shot in the air and took hostages. What's that doing here? We're not immune.
Yeah.
We're not immune. It could happen here. It is happening here. Something big is going to happen in the Four Corners soon. I feel it in my spine, and it has me keeping up at night because it's worrying me so much.
Right.
The big happening. And it seemed like we had a dude have a standoff with every cop from, within 300 miles. down in North Tucker Avenue. Because I heard he like pistol whipped his girlfriend, and then he proceeded to make a sandwich in front of the cops. Which, making a sandwich in front of the cops as they're swarming your apartment is a funny concept. Sorry for victims, but I just imagine him like rubbing the mayo over the ham and like putting it on top and just eating it in front of the cops. So you're like, come out here. No, it's like, but it's like these little things leading up, and you notice how. It's kind of weird. Like, there's a lot of stuff in this town that goes on we don't know about. There's a lot of standoffs.
Yeah.
I'd probably say there's about one standoff every week.
Oh, at least, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a law enforcement buddy. I'm not even going to say what branch.
You got a scanner, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
But I do have somebody that I know in law enforcement, and he said that the Farmington area and Four Corners area, they have no idea at night when they lay their heads down what these guys are dealing with on the streets.
That's insane. Because you wouldn't think it would be that like.
And that's just it. That's at night where it gets worse. I've heard crazy stuff even during the day with my scanner.
Down like I don't really want to talk about that, but down when I was working for the city of Bloomfield, they had a scanner up. And you could listen to it now and again, and I was like, "What?" I'm like, "This is like a 3-mile stretch of road."
Yeah. Well,
what
was it 2 or 3 years ago they had that shooting or stabbing or something at the Lottaburger there in Bloomfield?
Yeah, you had that. Yeah, someone like it was going ham in the Lottaburger.
Yeah.
And then, which is funny, I've never personally seen anything like this personally.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because I don't hang around these public areas that much or insufferable. Not to say that the people, I love you all, but I hate being in crowded places because, let's be honest, I don't want to be caught up in the big happening here.
I lived 12 years in Bloomfield before I finally moved out of there.
Some dude was pointing guns at the cops and was trying to kill himself at the same time. Yep. That was 2016, 2017? Yeah. I don't know, one of those 2 years.
All the way from 07 to close to present. I mean, there's been crazy stuff on the street that I live down. Of course, I live kind of in a rough neighborhood. Mm-hmm. But there was gang members all over the place. There was apparent drug deals that would go on. I would call the cops, and they'd be like, "Oh, we can't prove anything." And I'm like, dude, I just see them right here. There's like a conga line. And the guy's it's like a drive-up drug deal. They drive up to the house, there's the next one gone. And that happens all the time.
We have our small town stuff, and I mean, goodness gracious, you'd think it was Chicago sometimes, but again, back to the Epstein and everything, all I can do is pray, because right now, it's like I would, if I could, Lord hold me back, if I could get a hold of these people, and if I had their names and addresses, I would quit my job, and you would not see me again. But you would hear of news of some awful, awful things, I would hope, happening to these people, because there's one thing that any decent man, the most evil thing you can do is harm a child.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ himself, if you're going to harm a child, throw a millstone around your neck and drown yourself. That is as clear as day.
With that said,
can
you imagine what's going on with Epstein right now?
If he is dead.
If he is, let's get into that.
Yeah.
Let's get into that.
That's something that I'm a little worried, because there's a photo that's very, very blatant of
Did you hear about
when
the
he was
two vans?
alive. Yes.
There's a black van and a white van at the hospital. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so supposedly both of them received quote-unquote bodies. Mm-hmm. Could that be because one of them's the living Epstein and one is a cadaver?
Right. Well, I mean, you look at it, if these photos are correct, the ones of dead Epstein, that's not Epstein. Sorry, man. His hairline is completely different.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. It looks all goofy.
His nose is hooked.
He clearly looks older, too, than Epstein.
Which may be because of the worry. Maybe he got really worried, and it, like Palpatine, his face melted.
Could be.
I've seen people who've been, maybe like awake for, a full week without getting any rest until passing out. Yeah, they look really rough.
It could be, and I mean,
but the hook nose and the hairline is.
He did try to warn whoever the prisons that, hey, somebody's clearly trying to kill me.
He did. It was clear as day. Either one, he was assassinated, or two, he was moved out.
Yeah. Well, that's just
There's
it.
Two options.
If you're saying, John, somebody's trying to kill me, do you honestly really think that you believe that person would want to commit suicide?
Right.
Why don't you just let them do it then if you're really, truly wanting to off yourself?
Right. Yeah. No, it doesn't make any sense. One of them, it adds up, just like Oswald getting shot in the stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah, the government's very good at protecting these VIPs. The guy who supposedly just killed the effing president is just left in the open to get shot.
Yeah.
Perfect. Again, how convenient.
Oh, yeah.
How beautifully convenient. Silly.
Yeah.
To believe any of it. It
lines
up
several
again.
hundred yards with an Italian rifle.
Yeah, we talked
sights.
about this last time, remember? And it's the perfect line. It's a copy-paste. This guy did this. These people are going to question this guy. And all of a sudden, he's killed.
Well, and you had messaged me about this too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
Everybody
Left, right,
knows.
Whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who you joke with. I've joked with people on the left and the right, and they laugh at me when I say, I want to let you know right now that I do not have anything on Hillary Clinton. And they laugh at me because they know it's true.
They do. It's a nervous laugh, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's like, we certainly hope you don't, because that's a death sentence.
Yeah.
It's even Trump talked about the Clinton body count.
Mm-hmm.
It's up there.
Yeah.
It's high, man. It's ridiculous.
It's over now, I think 20 quote unquote friends and acquaintances they've had over the years that have committed suicide. That's a little statistically off.
Either one, you're all evil trying to escape your conscience, which, maybe. Or two, somebody's killing people.
Yeah.
Henchman, hitman stuff, which is,
There's all kinds of memes out there, supposed to be like Elvis Presley, how many hits he has, and then Hillary Clinton's all, bitch, please.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yep. Nobody beats the Clintons at this so far. The world champions of death. You get some intel there? Or some feedback? Okay. Anyways, so you got that going on. Where was I gonna go? There was somewhere I had a running thought. It just kind of fleeted away. That's pretty much the proving point for me right there. Is a standard. This is the highest profiled guy they had in that prison that they probably have had in 10 years, and
Sure.
This guy, he's probably going to try and kill himself. Let's put him on suicide watch, let's put him where he can't do that.
Well, now the story's changed with that.
Yeah.
As of recently, supposedly, he was just taken off suicide watch 2 days before.
But the guards still had an excuse.
The guards were still supposed to be watching him.
Right.
But supposedly he was given sheets back in his bunk. That's the reason why they're saying, why he had sheets. Because on suicide watch, you're not going to have your shoelaces, any kind of sheets, anything to hang yourself with. So that was kind of their quote-unquote excuse.
Right.
But I'm wanting to know, and it's not clear who ordered him to be taken off suicide watch. Mm-hmm. It's just up there. I guess the Tooth Fairy did. I don't know.
Yeah. We didn't feel like it. And the perfect happening every time, just gorgeous lining up to get rid of a loose end. There goes Oswald. Yeah, Oswald, if what I've read about him is true, he's a scumbag, and I'm glad he's dead. But it's just like Epstein. It's he's a scumbag, and I hope he's dead.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, I hope he's dead. If because you can't go back. If anything, I hope he's dead. I wish he wasn't, so we could get some information out. It's literally interrogating. We have the biggest break in this big old pedophilic ring that's been
bringing down the deep state.
Of bringing it down, of making everyone aware of what's going on, and this guy just gets erased.
Here's one more.
And it's just frustrating.
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
What if it wasn't the left that faked his death, but Trump come and took him one, to keep him from getting murdered, and two, he's going to bring him out in the next election to bring down the deep state.
If he does do that,
if he did, that would be the most brilliant thing.
That would, dude. That is a happy dream, but a dream I highly doubt.
I doubt it.
I know, but it's like that's like something from a movie. It's like, you know, the one you've all been waiting for, and it just like brings out, you know,
Epstein,
handcuffed, you know, and he's like, yep. These guys did it. These guys did it. These guys did it. You know,
brings him out like in chains. Like, have you ever watched Christmas Vacation with a bow and he kicks him in the rear end? Bam!
Tell him what you know, and it's just live television. Yeah, I tell you, man. If he gets out there and he's on that, oh man,
that would be epic.
Yeah, it would be. But you know, I'd expect like he'd probably open his mouth and you see the bullet, boom, just instantly.
Oh yeah.
You know, someone somewhere, one of the Secret Service agents probably be like, no! You know, so... it's a lovely dream, though. I like that concept. Yeah. There's no way, right?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm clinging to hope right now.
I don't know. I think Trump or someone would, like, kind of bring that out as...
I don't know if Trump could keep his mouth shut about something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, though. He would be like...
Yeah, he might be alluding to it. Yeah, right now, you know, I got something big. You know, you're not gonna see it. You know, but I got something here, and it's gonna bring them down. You know.
Yeah, it's gonna bring.
It's gonna be beautiful. You're gonna love it.
And that would be great. But has he ever mentioned the deep state? Has he ever talked about the deep state?
He's talked about draining the swamp.
Yeah, which is pretty alluding.
Yeah, that's what Trump calls the deep state, is the swamp. That's his what he calls the deep state.
Mm-hmm. Which is all right, you know, but it's like where's... I was actually talking about that. I never really got into it more. I wanted to get into it more. It's like, what's with all these fourth wall breaks in politics all of a sudden, where it's like they're self-aware. All these people, they're finally getting aware that people are onto them, so they're just mentioning it out in the open and like nobody cares because it's like yeah, here I am. You know, I know about all this stuff that's happening. What are you going to do about it? Yeah. You know, it's like, here I am doing all this stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, man. It's frustrating. But at the same time, it's like, I'm glad that these fourth wall breaks are taking place. Everyone, and anyone who doesn't, well, that's just, I wish I had your naivety to believe that nothing is going on. That's insane to believe that. No, there's...
Well, this is one of those, with the Epstein thing, and I've been called, or labeled, I guess, as a conspiracy theorist.
We're going to be with this crap, man.
But this is one that, like, even people who are not conspiracy theorists are like you said, they know. I mean,
they know.
It's obvious.
Yeah, if they're remotely educated in it, even just by mainstream, they're like, no.
But you know what? It's going to get more scary, though, because, okay, so now, since the fourth wall has been broken this far, let's take the Clintons, for example.
We came, we saw, they died.
They don't have to, they can kill whoever they want.
They really can. It's a mafia mob rule. Dude.
That's power that you can't buy.
No. And it goes back to the families, like we're talking Illuminati, the Deep State Rothschilds, Bushes are involved in it, you know, with their... And yeah, that's the conspiracy of the century, you know, is literally the spirit cooking, the sacrificial crap, their weird forest gatherings. Weird! They all talk about it, like, not, you know, often, you know, but they mention, oh yeah, we went out to the forest out this way, and it's like... You know, it's like, here's photos of that, and it's like this huge, like, you know, statue where they're, like, doing a sacrifice in front of it, and there's, like, pentagrams everywhere. It's like, okay, well, we know what's going on. Yep. You know, we know where you were. Well, you want to talk about it? Oh, no, really.
Yeah, the huge
I was there,
pagan shrine on Epstein's Island.
Yeah. Probably Baal, isn't it?
Oh, it has to be Baal. It is Baal.
Yeah, is it the statue there? Like
you can't see the statue. It kind of looks, the top of it's this gold top.
Oh, actually, it's that temple thing?
Yeah, that temple thing.
Yeah.
Now, that part was blown off during, I guess, the last hurricane. But the white and blue temple is still there. Mm-hmm. You can find it on Google Earth.
Oh, yeah, no, it's everywhere. It's a huge meme right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, meme in a sense that people are like, you know, let's go raid it. Oh, speaking of memes, before we get off that, oh, man...
You guys have really blown it this time. So, guys, rightists, whatever, leftists, boogaloo memes. The great big boogaloo that's coming, right? All that. Let's be very clear. These memes are very, very, very risky. This is stuff that is genuine threats against, alphabet organizations, the ATF, everything else, which is exactly why they, in the memes are referred to as alphabet boys. So, there's been a few Instagram, been a few Facebook pages routed out. These are FBI/ATF agents setting up these pages for you to share this stuff and for you to be latched onto and watched. Yep. And the moment something like that happens, they have a suspect list right off the bat.
Yep.
So, let's be honest, if you do plan on doing any of this, firstly, don't be an idiot and share boogaloo memes. Secondly, I don't suggest you do any of this. I don't suggest you cut power off anywhere, and read Siege. That whole meme set is a whole new can of worms. I don't know if you've heard about that, but there's a National Socialist book. It's called Siege.
Okay.
And it basically talks about how to undermine a society. And
okay. So basically, it's the same as Saul Alinsky's. Basically, like Saul Alinsky's rule for radicals.
Yeah, but it's like anarchism and like chaos. It's like destroying power plants. And
so basically, like a guerrilla warfare 101.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But for like the fascism to take place, which and there's a lot of that going around, and a lot of that is also ran by the FBI and ATF
to cause unrest.
To cause unrest, which might be an illusion. Which might be why these guys pop up. And they're white supremacists all of a sudden. And which sounds like, that's kind of rigged. Now we know that these white supremacist people, these meme pages or whatever that are ran by these guys, are more or less the causings of these shootings. These people are super white supremacists. You look at it and it's like, I wonder how engineered this was. Where did this puppet come from?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, something interesting here. So just keep vigilant and don't. If it looks like it would get you put in prison if you said it in public, probably don't share it on your personal Facebook.
Yep.
And nowadays I understand that's kind of broad. It's like you could get in prison for like anything these days. I don't know.
Well, and that's one of those things where I tread back and forth because I am pretty extreme libertarian, and I believe in our First Amendment.
I believe in freedom, man.
But the thing is there's even things to the First Amendment that you can't say. For example, in the cliche thing, you can't, you're not supposed to yell fire in a crowded theater.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a guy that once, and he mentioned that, and I said, no, actually you can. And he's all, what do you mean? I said, if there's a fire in the theater, you can.
Absolutely.
So, words mean things, okay?
Yeah.
So, for example,
threats and
exactly. When you start saying, say I start making a podcast on this guy named John because I don't like his podcast, and then I say something. Well, I'm gonna XXX go knock John out and all this. Well, I've stepped past my right of speech. And I have threatened a physical bodily harm against John.
Well, I just talked about how I want to go about and go.
Yeah, that one was a little.
It was a bit rough, but that's the thing is who wouldn't? Is anybody gonna blame me? If they had these streets and addresses, would they be tempted to do the same?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's I can put a disclaimer out right now. I don't plan to do that, but I certainly hope someone would.
Well, for example, here's the classic one. If you had a time machine. And it was set back to 1930s.
Yeah.
And you were allowed to be in Austria, Germany.
Right.
And you were pointed out to who Hitler was. Would you kill Hitler?
Well, that's actually kind of hard if he was like a kid or something. Well,
yeah, but you knew that was going to be Hitler one day.
Right.
And you knew all the evil that went through. I understand he's a kid,
right.
But would you pass that up? I don't know too many people that would.
It's an interesting concept. And I look at it and it's like, at that rate, if you're going back in time, the evil hasn't happened.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's like, can you morally justify that? So, like I talked about it, it's like,
Just how I knew the shooter down in Aztec. I didn't know him, but I probably, if I knew what he was going to do, I would have pulled him up and been like, hey, let's talk.
Yeah.
You know, you need help. You know, I want to talk to you. You know, you need help. You know, I wouldn't just like clap him. You know, like, motherfucker, boom. You know, I wouldn't do that. I would be like, hey, let's talk. You need help. It's very clear you are a very distraught person.
Right.
Now, after the fact, if I got a hold of him, I wouldn't mind putting him down because he has done an evil action. But that's, that's kind of out of order. I understand that's kind of off topic. But my thing is with that, it's like with Hitler, if I could, I'd be like, you need help!
Right, but you would still try to intervene in some way.
I would stop it.
Yeah.
And if I could stay around there and I could see he was still going to do it anyway, maybe then I'd consider it, putting it, because it would stop it. But then again, we get into the whole science fiction. It's like, if you stop that from happening, what else would happen?
Butterfly effect.
The butterfly effect. But, no, he's a National Socialist. I personally don't have a problem as an American with socialists disappearing because they are a threat.
Sure.
I'm not going to do that because everyone has a right under the First Amendment right now.
Sure.
But SHTF, down the line, if, socialists start threatening me and everything, I will defend myself.
Sure. As
necessary. I will not hunt them. I will not go out. I will not threaten them. I will not do anything that's outside of defense. That's with anyone.
Sure.
Be it anyone. And that's my thing, too. It's like, dude, if you're a gay, leftist communist, arm yourself.
Sure.
Go ahead. Arm yourself because you have that right here.
Sure.
And if someone wants to come beat you up or kill you or hurt your family because of your beliefs, you have a right to
defend yourself.
In being that you're a communist, leftist, whatever, you're not going to do that because you're so brain mashed by the soy, But my thing is with that is like you have a right to defend yourself no matter what side of the spectrum you play on. If you're gay, defend yourself. Someone wants to hurt you or hurt your lover, whatever. Someone wants to hurt you guys, get a gun. Yep. Defend yourself. That's your right. That's what I'm protecting is my right. If someone says, I heard you talk about capitalism and, your viewpoints don't align with mine, it's like, I'm going to go, kill your family, which I did have someone do. And that was awful. All I could do, I felt so powerless because they doxed me and they we're going to, come over. Nobody ever showed up. Big surprise. But the thing with that, it's like, I dare you, for one. Two, it's like, imagine if I did that to them.
Yeah.
I would be the bad guy.
Yeah.
I would be the bad guy. Now, there's some people that put themselves out there that do vicious things. Like, there was an Antifa dude who just got... It's a governor of... where's these riots going on right now? Is it Philadelphia? I don't know. But,
yeah.
Antifa had a big blowout where they attacked small children that happened to be walking with someone. I don't know if they were wearing a MAGA hat, but they beat the kids up too. Small kids, 7-year-olds. Yeah, terrorists.
That's a way to make yourself loved in the public eye.
Yeah, well, I mean, in Philadelphia, it's probably Philadelphia's so broke anyway. All of them are gone. But
was it Philly or Atlanta, the one that Trump said was a rat infested?
Was it Baltimore?
Was it Baltimore? It was rat infested, and they said it was all racist.
One of those big cities. But it's common sense. And if you look at what Antifa does and everything, they'll dox you without a second doubt. They'll attack you. They're vicious coyotes that are hired coyotes.
Sure.
By the deep state. But to say, if you mentioned Epstein in a crowd of Antifa, they'd probably turn on you and start beating you up because it's like, whoa, that's something that our boss doesn't like, getting spread around. Let's go get him. And they put it under the guise of edgy communists, but it's like, are they really? Yeah, I'm sure some of them, I'm sure most of them, but the ones calling the shots of where these protests happen, no, they're not communists. They're too smart.
Yeah,
they're evil. They are very evil people doing very evil things.
No, they're following that mindset of causing unrest.
Yeah.
Because their dream, and it's kind of funny, I don't think they realize how that's going to play out for them. Their dream is to cause a SHTF.
Yes. No, it's an accelerationism.
Yeah.
It's to bring it about.
and basically crumble what they can, and then whatever are ordered now crumbles, they can institute what they want.
At least out of the big cities, though, John, I don't think that things are going to happen quite like they think. Mm-hmm. I think, and maybe this is just me being an optimist, but I think somewhere like San Juan County, I think the people would pull together. Mm-hmm. I truly do. Oh, yeah. I think the communities, there would be communities of people, rather than even just be a few blocks of people that would get together and say, hey, we don't have law enforcement right now. We don't have electricity and stuff. We need to start patrolling the streets and making sure the bad guys don't hurt our loved ones.
Right.
And I know several people of...
Oh, if Antifa showed up around here, they wouldn't show up again.
No.
They'd be routed out.
Yeah. And I'm not even talking about Antifa here. I mean, I think maybe there would be like some roving gangs and stuff like that would pop up just because they would think they could prey upon the weak.
Right. Which is exactly what Antifa is.
Exactly. I think there would be enough sheepdogs in San Juan County, though, that wouldn't roll well.
Well, I mean, if it got news that like someone was like praising communism somewhere, there's going to be like tenfold. There were people holding Soviet flags at the Trump rally. It didn't last but like 5 minutes. You remember when the rally came through town? There was like a truck, a pickup truck full of like blue-haired feminists. Whales, in the back, all like exposing themselves, holding the Soviet flag up, and everyone was like, "Get the hell out of here!"
Yeah,
the Trump supporters kept their cool. They're like, "What is this going?" Eventually, the police showed up because it was private property it was being held on, and it was basically trespassing. It was a church.
Sure,
it was a church, and these people are out here doing this, and I was like, "No." Out of here! And the moment the cop showed up, they didn't even talk to the cops. They just saw cops and ran.
Yeah,
which is like, I don't know. Maybe he could have pulled a First Amendment gripe, but it was never really said. They just saw cops, and they just took off.
So that right there shows that in their hearts they knew what they was doing was wrong.
Yeah.
Because going back to God's word,
it's so insecure. That's everywhere. Yeah.
God's word, and this is at the time talking about the Romans.
Yeah.
But it basically says that if you're doing right, you don't fear the sword. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the sword was the Roman soldier, the centurions. Yeah. So people like Paul that were spreading the gospel.
If you are sure you're right, you're going to stand up for it.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't see these people
even
stand
from
up.
Fear of death, you're going to stand up for it.
The moment challenge come to these people, they disappear.
Right.
The moment that an opposing that has authority comes in.
And again, I mentioned it before. That's the reason why they wear masks.
Yep.
Because they know what they're doing is wrong.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and start to wrap it up. I just got a call. I do apologize, everyone. There's so much we want to talk about, but it's almost at that 2-hour mark. We're going to go ahead and close it for now. Thank you, Lord, for making this all possible. Thank you for protecting us in these dark times and these trying, frustrating moments. Please help us be patient. Help us just stay kind and patient as we wait for your signals and your guidance as we move on in this troublesome path. Thank you, Lord, for everything you've given us, for our freedoms, for our right to be able to do this podcast. And thank you for the people who are listening, because we are only as strong as our signal. Help us, Lord, as we progress. God bless the United States. God bless the world. Amen.
Amen.
We're going to go ahead and end it with that. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This is Evigilans and War Spirit. Hopefully we get a more scheduled broadcast time going. I'm going to go ahead and call it a day for now. It's a good podcast. Thank you for joining me, War Spirit.
Bye.